I'm not gonna lie, going into Barbie, my expectations were pretty high, mainly because of the whole Barbie-Oppenheimer trend that's been happening, and both movies doing incredibly well financially and critically. I'm much more of a fiction over non-fiction guy, so I was more curious about what the Barbie movie was gonna be like. I feel like this type of wacky, surrealist comedy is something that's hard to come by these days, which is why I'm at least glad that general audiences are loving it, because it may open the door to us getting more movies in this vein. At the start of the film, I was immediately impressed by the amount of effort put into the art direction and production design of Barbie's world. Nowadays, a lot of fantastical settings are delivered via green screen, so it's refreshing to see something that looks more tangible. I'm also a sucker for morning routines that give us a better look into how a fictional world works, and the one in this movie was really fun to watch. There are just so many moments in this film where things could have been done in a more conventional way, but the creators really went that extra mile to make it feel like you were watching toys living in a uniquely imaginative world. I also really loved the supporting cast in this. Of course, Margot Robbie killed it as Barbie, but I found Ryan Gosling's Ken to be a standout as he had most of the crowd-pleasing comedic moments. You also had Will Ferrell, Michael Cera, and even Kate McKinnon, who although were in smaller roles, definitely used their screen time to the fullest. This odd bunch of characters again really shows how dedicated Greta Gerwig was to rounding out this world and not just focusing on what most people stereotypically know about Barbie. Once the real plot begins, Barbie and Ken have to venture into the real world, and this is where we also get more lore as to how Barbie Land works in conjunction with our world. And for this type of movie, I'm really glad that the writers understood how much more interesting Barbie's world is and made it so that the majority of the film isn't spent in Los Angeles. This could have easily been a generic fish out of water story similar to the first Sonic film or those old shitty Smurf movies, so I'm glad that's not the direction they took. Margot Robbie has discussed how surprising she thought the script was creatively, and I'd say it delivered on that note. However, my main issue with the film was just how jam-packed its story was. At one point, Barbie has to find the kid who owns her doll to fix her existential crisis, and that's where things start to get muddled, because then you got a subplot with the kid, and then they throw her mom into the mix, then you got Will Ferrell as this side villain, then you got Barbie's own internal crisis, Ken's subplot about masculinity. There's so much to explore here that a lot of it ends up feeling half-baked. I feel like for a movie this short, they should have shaved off the amount of characters, or at least the screen time of some of them, to what's necessary to tell this story. Because at the core of it, I found Barbie's arc to be really interesting, and definitely something worth praising, because this easily could have just been a standard Hollywood comedy with none of the emotional depth that we got. On another note, there's also a lot of people complaining about the girl power message of the movie. I don't personally have a problem with it. I actually like that they took the risk in approaching such a subject in a movie like this, but for me, it was just the way that message was delivered that felt really on the nose and heavy-handed. There's a point where America Ferrera's character has this big speech about being a woman, and it reminded me a lot of this scene from Marvel's She-Hulk, which also got a lot of flack for the same reason.
When incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me, I do it pretty much every day, because if I don't, I will get called emotional or difficult, or I might just literally get murdered.
This message is something that a lot of people like myself have probably heard before, so I was disappointed that a movie this creatively crafted wasn't able to deliver the same idea just through its story, and instead had to spoon feed it to the audience. I think that problem with subtlety plagues a majority of the social commentary in this film, unfortunately. Overall, although Barbie has some issues, there's a lot to love in it, and the risks Greta Gerwig took in the storytelling are really commendable. Barbie could have easily been a disposable children's film, but luckily, it's much more than that.